It was the year of fire.
The year of destruction.
The year we took back what was ours.
It was the year of rebirth.
The year of great sadness. The year of pain.
And a year of joy.
It was a new age. It was the end of history.
It was the year everything changed.
The year is 2261. The place, Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chatz, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the Egyptian god of podcast co-hosts. It's Magellan.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, friendo. How do you like your title this week? How do you feel about being the god of podcast co-hosts?
I feel like you've finally given me the appropriate. This is what I was born for.
I'm become like God, become like the best podcast co-hosts of our time. You're vying for deityhood and all of that. You're basically the Emperor Cartagia of podcast co-hosts. I could have said that too. Boy, what a season, man. We are in the heat of it.
Yeah, we're just starting, huh?
Yeah. It's really nice to have just like good TV to watch in the summer. Like I was walking somewhere today and I was just thinking about the shadows and thinking about this conflict, and I was like, man, this is a good show sometimes. Like it's just nice when the show is good. It's bad when the show is bad, but it's good when the show is good. So I'm glad that we're here. This is Chatzylon 5. This is a podcast where we talk about 2 episodes of Babylon 5 every week. And this week, we started Season 4 with Episode 1, The Hour of the Wolf. We also watched Episode 2, Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi? Can I get another take of that? Whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi? First, we're going to be discussing The Hour of the Wolf, which was written by J. Michael Straczynski. It was directed by David J. Eagle. It aired November 4th, 1996, and it takes place from Saturday, December 28th, 2260, all the way into Monday, January 6th of 2261. Magellan, what happened in The Hour of the Wolf?
In this episode, Ivanova, Delenn, and Lita travel to Zachadum to search for Sheridan, while Jakar ventures out to search for Garibaldi. Londo finds that the political climate of Centauri Prime has worsened under the rule of Cartagia, the insane emperor. Alan, what did you think of The Hour of the Wolf?
Honestly, this is a very strong opening for a season. We had heard nothing but good things about Season 4. Season 4 is the no-filler season. It's the good one. It's technically the final one before they got another season. Like, you know, they're really accelerating through plot points, and they are. And we'll definitely talk about that. I feel like I do appreciate how quickly everything is happening, but it's bordering on like too fast right now. Because I think especially The Hour of the Wolf almost suffers from like too much. I will say, just to get into it, the first moment that I was like, oh boy, was, so I watched this episode very early in the morning today. I was like watching it on my commute into work, which is not the best time for me to watch Babylon 5 because it's like a pretty thinky show and I'm like tired and my coffee hasn't kicked in.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I also watched it on my way to work.
Yeah, we are men of principle. We get shows out on time.
Men of principle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, we're men of something.
I mean, but we also release shows late sometimes. So
like often, yeah. we do our best.
We do our best. Yeah, we do our best.
And the moment of the episode that like affected me at that time was you're just like watching the episode, and then I'm trying to find out exactly where it was, but oh yeah, Ivanova's talking to Veer, and Veer's like, "Cheer up, Ivanova. At least we won't see Mr. Morden again." And then just like,
yeah, then it's
very
like,
hard cut to Londo,
hey,
like
Londo,
in these.
Here I am.
Yeah, I am your best. And he, like, dude, because it's a dark room. It's Londo's quarters, and Morden's like, "Hello, I'm back," and he's just his skin has mostly melted off. He's bald. He's in a hoodie. He looks like a fucking Sith Lord, and he's peeling his own skin off during this conversation. And I'm on the train, and I'm like, oh, jeez. I'm like, oh boy, really, Babylon 5? Like, we're here, we're doing this? Okay, I'm ready for it. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get that bread, as the kids say.
So you said that you think that this episode is trying to do too much, basically. Is that your take on it?
Yeah, at least somewhat, yeah.
If you, like, what would you take out or what would you delay, I guess?
Well, it's not that I would take out anything because I think this is all essential. I think the closest we get to like characterful moments is stuff like the fantastic, like Zach and Jakar in Garibaldi's quarters talking about the Daffy Duck poster. Just they listen to our podcast. You know what? They listen to our podcast and they know what we want, and they're jumping through time and space to please us.
You want more of those moments, you're saying?
I do, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of like things happening and being like, this is gonna come back later. Like Lita slurping up new Kosh, and she's like, this feels different. Anyways, next thing. Like I have a lot of like small notes because like there's just so many quantity of scenes.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't know. After starting when we were talking about our season 3 recap, we talked about how we kind of barely remembered the beginning episodes of season 3.
Right.
And watching both of these, it's like, how could you forget these beginning episodes of season 4? These just feel so exciting and consequential. So, at least in that context, given our recent conversation, I was pretty gung-ho about these 2 episodes. I mean, the first one's busy, but also, like, we sort of know where it's going to end up, I think, because of the flash forward to the future from last season, where Centauri Prime is like burning and all that crazy shit's going on. Mm-hmm. So what makes this fun, what makes the speed of this fun, is that the whole time you're like, oh shit, like we're going straight to that future.
We're barreling towards oblivion.
Everything is converging towards that future right now. We thought we avoided it, but it is happening. And so I think that's what makes the speed okay, is because you kind of already know where things are moving.
Right. And the other reason that I was like, I kind of wanted them to dwell on this more is, like you mentioned in the summary, there's like scene time dedicated to Lita and Ivanova and Delenn like doing a shadow mission. And I kind of like where the cast is at right now. And I know, like, we're going to have Sheridan back, like, literally next week. But I'm just like...
I was going to say the same thing.
Right? It's like, this is a nice cast. Like, yeah, I miss Garibaldi always. But, like, the show is cranking along without Garibaldi or Sheridan.
It doesn't need either of them, to be frank.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be super real, Honey Nut Realios, yeah.
I mean, I guess Sheridan does serve an important... Like, you can use those characters. But if we were in the show where they were both dead... I don't think that would be so bad.
It's kind of like, and I think we're kind of past the point where we can talk about Avengers Endgame a tiny bit because it's been a little while. But
I haven't seen it, but I don't care.
Well, there's just a period of time, like post Thanos' snap, where it's like there's like 6 Avengers left alive, and it's like they spent like 30 minutes in that, and I kept being like, I kind of just want that, even though it wasn't like my favorite Avengers left alive.
The whole cast.
Right, because the whole cast just makes the movie like too busy, and in this case, like, yeah, Garibaldi is. I think what I really like, especially in the second episode, is seeing how people think about Garibaldi and think about Sheridan.
Yeah, that's more interesting than seeing them. I mean, the Sheridan stuff has some cool world building to it.
Oh yeah.
But like, I guess we'll talk about Garibaldi in the second one. But like, yeah, it's much more interesting to see Jakar running around trying to find him.
Right, but you open this episode with Ivanova again narrate, or Jakar narrates the opener this time.
Yeah.
Yep, he reestablishes just all the mysteries hanging over the season and who everyone's mad at. Ivanova's under a ton of stress. We get her opening and closing this episode with her wake up alarm telling her that she has 100 missed messages and 100 meetings.
Motif. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good capper. It's definitely especially because when we learn what she means by the hour of the wolf, it's kind of like she is in a depressive funk that you can't work your way out of. You have to like, do something active other than just keep the grind going. Mm-hmm. She goes to a meeting of the non-aligned worlds, and everyone's pissed, rightfully, in my opinion. A lot of them are like, we want to take our ships back. We want to defend our planets now because why would we attack Zahadum again if there's nothing left on there worth fighting? Like, the shadows are going to come back. All we can do is survive. Let's, protect our own. We don't need to, like, try to save your boyfriend, Delenn.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a weird moment in the conflict because we haven't really won, but the shadows definitely have been hurt pretty badly. So it's sort of unclear. I don't know how we're supposed to feel about it. And then we know as viewers that an assault on Zahadum doesn't make any sense because we know where the shadows end up and where they're hiding. And I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. Is there anything else that Ivanova does in this episode? She's kind of just hanging in charge of Babylon 5, right?
Yeah, the only other major scene I have with her is the scene at the end of the episode where she talks to Lita about the Hour of the Wolf.
Okay, so let's talk about Lita a little bit.
Yeah, man.
Something's going on with the Vorlons with this new Kosh, because she's sucking up his soul guts, those juices, and then she's like, that kind of felt different than with Kosh. What's wrong? And he's like, nothing. It's totally normal. Everything's fine. No, you're like evil. No way.
No, it's chill, dude.
No. I'm cool. Just don't ask any questions at all. And also don't interfere with what I'm going to do.
Right.
But otherwise, I'm cool. I'm totally a good guy.
So this is a better, like a parallel to Sheridan than Justin was. Because Kosh being we're gonna call him New Kosh, I guess, is whatever we want to call this guy. Because I don't feel like he's Kosh really at this point. The way he's talking to her.
Yeah, we should just give him a new name.
Josh.
Yeah, okay, Josh.
Wow, that was easy.
Josh is good.
But yeah, he's doing the same, like, don't ask questions, don't question me on anything, don't like debate my plans, do what I tell you to, and go away. And Sheridan basically, and they show this in the recap, like, says that to Garibaldi when he goes to ZHD. He's like, don't make a big deal of this. Don't, like, question it. Right. The difference is Sheridan and Garibaldi have, like, a relationship and like each other, and it sort of, like, carries a lot more weight because you don't want to bring Garibaldi with you on a mission because he can't die, because we love him. But with Lita and Josh, it's like, I don't know what he's doing. All it does is set up a mystery. I feel like I still don't understand who Lita is separate from her relationship to the Vorlons. And maybe we're not going to get that answer. Maybe I don't need that answer. But that was the one thing that was kind of, like, lacking to me from the Lita stuff, was like, who does she talk to? And it kind of got improved when she goes over to Ivanova and talks to Ivanova. But, I want to see Lita do more stuff is what I'm getting at. And
I think we're moving in that direction.
Mm-hmm. This is a pair of episodes that are all about establishing momentum, kind of building up a couple of different plot lines that are going to, like, jettison through the window very quickly. Because the other thing I remember hearing about this season is, like, it happens so fast. Like, everything happens in, like, 8 episodes. And then it's like, wait, now what? And then they kind of, like, burn steam really quickly. So I'm curious, like, how quickly this all happens exactly. But Josh is definitely not our boy, and he's going to be sketchy.
It seems like they're setting up Lita Alexander to be, like, the person who takes down the Vorlons, right? Or messes with them, or shows what's messed up about them. Because she goes to Ivanova and is like, "Hey, Josh doesn't want me to." She doesn't say it in these words, but like, Josh doesn't want me talking to you, but I know the right thing to do, and we're going to go do it.
Right.
It feels like Kosh, what we're learning about Kosh is that, he was kind of shitty, but, like, maybe he was the least shitty Vorlon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because if we established last season that, like, yes, confirmed all the Vorlons are in some way fundamentally shitty, maybe we just had the benevolent one, and the rest of them are, like, the substitute teacher who doesn't care about being nice to you. But really, it's just, like, these are the same values that Kosh had. He just delivered it nicer. But then that comes into question too with what happens to Sheridan in episode 2, because he, like, still has Kosh in him, it's very up in the air what's going on with the Vorlons. You know what I mean?
Right. We don't really know what their motivations are because, especially with Delen's interaction with Josh, where she's like, we got to save John Sheridan. He's like super important. And then that dude's like, not really. He did what we needed him to do. And he kind of did something surprising that changed the rules. So we don't really care about you or your part of the mission anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of makes you question all the shit that Kosh went through to like convince them to get on board, and when he brought Jack the Ripper to like interview them and stuff, that maybe there wasn't really this higher unifying purpose that the Vorlons had, and it was all just this like manipulative, petty way to kill the shadows.
Right. And so it's just one of those things that I really think is going to go somewhere, and especially now that like it's one episode in and we're already talking, or we're going to Zahadum and like attacking people. It doesn't take us a whole season to get there now. It takes us 5 minutes. So that's all building to. We can talk about the Zahadum assault at the end because that's kind of the like climax of the episode. But I want to pivot back to Ivanova briefly and talk about the Hour of the Wolf scene.
Okay.
Really strong. I feel like Babylon 5 is at its best when either like an ancient figure is describing philosophy to someone in a way that feels relevant to how like the themes of religion and why do we trust people and what do we live for, all that stuff. This is me coming as a big Lorien fan. And then it's also really good when just humans are talking about how they're coping with stress or tragedy and stuff like that. And this Ivanova scene exemplifies that because she's saying, you know, the Hour of the Wolf is an idea her father gave to her. It's the hours from 3 to 4 a.m. where all you can think about is your failures and all you can hear is your heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And she says, meanwhile, I've been in the Hour of the Wolf for 7 days. And I just love that Lita, like in this world, the way you kind of provide succor to a friend who's struggling and going through a rough time is not to be like, do you want to talk about it? It's instead to be like, do you want to assault Zahadum with me?
Right. I'll totally help you invade this hostile alien planet. Because that's what friends do.
It's kind of cute, right? Because like...
Yeah, I like it.
Because Lita does understand as a telepath, obviously. She knows Ivanova. It's not just like a mental block. It's like, yes, literally, the reason I'm sad is because we don't know if Sheridan's dead. If I could figure that out, I would feel a lot better. Yeah. So she's like, let's figure it out, which is just like, it's a good friend moment. This is where I was like, oh, Lita's nice. Okay. There's actually a surprising number of good friend moments in these pairs of episodes. In this pair of episodes, rather. Speaking of best friends, we also have to talk about our boys, Londo and Veer. Yeah. Veer bringing the heat this week. Confirming with his sources at the beginning. So first we have Londo meeting with Cartagia. We get to see Cartagia. Great scene.
Oh man, how do you feel about Cartagia?
He is exactly the type of absurd villain this show needed.
He's awesome. Yeah.
I love because the shadows are like mysterious and scary, but like we don't. And Morden is like that same thing, but I wanted like a cartoon villain that I can just hate.
They're like pretty methodical.
Yes.
But this guy's just fucking nuts.
You made a good comparison because I was saying that there's a scene in the second episode that feels extremely Game of Thrones, and you were like, yeah, well, Cartagia is definitely the show's Joffrey. He's like channeling that energy of...
He has definitely a Joffrey vibe.
I'm too young to have this much power. I'm single-minded in a way that's dangerous to everyone around me. And as Londo points out to one of the seniors, he tells everyone. He's not a secret keeper. He's a chatty man. Mm-hmm. And this scene is great too because he's like, I cut my hair. Check out this haircut. And Londo, who's all about tradition and the old ways, it's like,
he's like, oh, your hair's pretty short. We don't actually do that.
And what's brilliant is Cartagia's like, yeah, well, I'm trying to fit in with the average person because that's the kind of like liberal emperor that I am. And I am the soul of the people. So if I'm successful, if I become like a god, then we all become like a god. That makes sense. And it kind of like reeks of historical parallels to me. This idea of like the new generation is breaking from tradition and trying to progress things, but in sometimes ways that are dangerous or for the wrong reasons. Because this is definitely for the wrong reasons, even if it's like cool that Cartagia is trying a new thing. He's definitely doing it because he is mad with power immediately.
Yeah, it sort of calls into question, like, what is the value of there being this like old way and this built-in aristocracy to kind of control for the madness of an emperor. Like, it seems like, at least in previous what's the word I'm looking for? Reigns, something like that.
Previous dynasties or something.
Whatever. That the emperor was in some way like advised or contained by the people who were on his court, and that now we have this guy who's like secretly killing anybody who disagrees with him, and he's literally got a table covered in their heads. And then it's like
he's just like hanging out with shadows in his free time, like
right, yeah. And I love that moment where Londo is seeing Morden, and he's like, that dude's crazy, and then Morden's like, if there's a madman on the throne, it's because you and Rifa put him there.
You put him there.
You're dumb. It's your fault.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
You had texted me like, hey, bud, just a heads up, Londo gets owned like 15 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, like less than 10 minutes in, it's like, okay, Londo's back on Centauri Prime. He's under the thumb of this crazy emperor. Oh, and Morden's here. Cool. Also, Morden is like scary and has like lava face now or whatever.
And this is all his fault. This is all Londo's fault.
And then you think that Londo is like totally owned. And then, like, 10 minutes later, the entire Shadow fleet flies over his head to Centauri Prime. And it's like, oh, fuck. All right, well, that's about as bad as it can get.
Yeah, that's literally peak bad. And it's terrifying, too, because, well, first of all, that's the vision from, I think, either season 1 or 2. Where he,
we'd seen that image before.
Yeah, so that's one of the last visions from the early show that we've now seen come to pass.
Yeah.
But then also everyone is like, this is exciting. They're like, it reads to them like a military flyover or something. Like, whoa, the guys are here. Like people on, or at least like the higher ups and Cartagia, like
Cartagia feels that way.
Yeah, he likes the shadows. He's like, hell yeah, like these are our folks. I want to hang out with them. I want to like rap with them. These are like the kind of people that are going to get me where I need to be.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying. There are two different moments in these episodes where Cartagia asks Londo to go see something, and both of them read like it's going to be a good news, and then it turns out to be literally the worst news. And this is the first one. The second one is in episode 2, where he's like, Londo, I got you a gift.
Right. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is going to be a central theme of this season anyway is like fate versus free will.
Yeah.
Because we've already seen multiple moments where we've seen the future and characters have done things that they thought were changing the future, but actually just created it. Like Londo's vision of the shadows over Centauri Prime, I think motivated him to ally himself with the shadows so that that wouldn't happen. Like they wouldn't invade his planet.
Mm-hmm.
But then he ended up creating that situation by doing that.
Yeah, that's like the definition of like how Londo has owned himself is in trying to fix his future, he has created a worse one.
Yeah.
Like objectively. Big shout outs to Robert Krimmer, formerly known as Wortham Krimmer, the guy who plays Cartagia, for just bringing such a energy to the show though, and something for Londo to play off of.
Right.
Especially in that second episode. Oh my god, they're just
it's awesome.
They're great together. But yeah, so Veer confirms with his sources that Sheridan did in fact die jumping from the chasms, but he did put the shadows into disarray. So Ivanova is crying in this part early in the episode, and that's the part where he says he's, we're not going to see Morden again. Morden tells Londo that Cartagia is working for the shadows, which makes Londo their puppet. He's never going to escape the shadows.
Yeah.
And then that plot line is basically put on hold as and then we have Cartagia sitting with the shadows, and then finally Lita, Ivanova, and Delenn go to Zahadum, and they attempt to mount an assault or rescue Sheridan. This time they're rescuing Sheridan.
They're checking if he's there.
Right. The assault thing I'm thinking of is in the second one, but this one is just like, let's find life signs.
Right.
They go there. Lita says she doesn't detect anything. She kind of goes blank for a minute. Delenn is like, "Where are you? Are they there? What's going on?" She opens her eyes and they're all black, which is very spooky.
That's scary.
Very like traditional. Like it's scary, but it's like when someone's eyes go black, but it works. And then she's like, "We have to get out of here." Right before they're all for some reason like attracted to the idea of going, almost as if they're pulled by some sort of force. And then just as they're about to do that, they warp from hyperspace back. And Lanier, who has been in the background this whole time, is like, yeah, I could tell this was going to be a bad idea. So I set up a failsafe where if I was incapacitated for 2 minutes, then it would warp us back, which is very clever.
Yeah,
on
you gotta
Lanier's
love
part.
Lanier just always having done the sensible thing.
Right.
Like, Lanier, can you do... Oh, yeah, I did that.
Already did it.
I actually thought of a better way to do it than what you just suggested.
Right. He saves them, and he basically is like, yeah, that wasn't going to be a good idea. So Ivanova continues to be very sad, and the episode ends with Sheridan meeting some strange man on Zahadum, who honestly, in this scene, like the final shot of the episode, I thought that he looked like he had a crush on Sheridan, because he's like, "What you doing?" And he like puts his hand on his face, like he's like the Batman meme of like, "What are you up to, Justice?" and stuff. He kind of looks like that. So we're left to wonder who's this new boyfriend for Sheridan, and he's also alive. Yay! None of us were surprised that he's alive, right? Come on.
Yeah, no, we knew he was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that basically covers the Hour of the Wolf. Would you like to get into some emails before we talk about our second episode?
Yeah,
Joe?
let's read some emails. That sounds good.
Awesome.
Oh, one thing that we didn't talk about in a lot of depth was the scene that you said you really enjoyed at the beginning, which was Zach Allen and Jakar are in Garibaldi's room, and they sort of have this nice bonding thing of like, oh, you're here to look for that guy? I'm here to look for that guy. We both love that guy. And then finally, the Daffy Duck poster that has hung on the wall like a ghost for seasons and seasons,
like a portrait of Dorian Gray, basically.
Yeah, exactly. As the duck gets daffier, Garibaldi gets younger. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Finally, we have like direct acknowledgement that it exists, and a character who doesn't know who Daffy Duck is talking about it. Like this is the kind of shit that you would never think you needed the show to pay off, but when it pays it off, you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, give me
Of
that.
course.
I'll take that.
I actually deeply want this right now.
Right, because Zach Allen's like, yeah, it's the Egyptian god of frustration.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Jakar's like, is that one of your gods? And then Zach Allen's like, no. Well,
Because, like, how are you going to explain
gods?
Right, exactly. Like, how do you explain cartoons to an alien? You're like, well, okay, so we have these characters who are, like, really important to us, and they keep getting reiterated on over time, but they are all based on, like, the same myth. Like, oh, yeah, just God. Yeah, sure. That works.
Yeah.
It's a clever moment from Zach, who's in the theme song, by the way. Can we talk about the theme song?
What do you think of the new theme song?
So I actually really like that everybody talks. You kind of get like a little snippet of everybody's voices.
Mm-hmm.
The wording of it is like pretty cool also, because it's no longer there's no mention of like it's a ship, it's meant for peace, there's a war. It's like, no, we are talking about where we are and when we are, and that's it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Please do.
So this is the season 4 intro for Babylon 5. You heard this at the beginning of our episode. It was the year of fire, the year of destruction, the year we took back what was ours. It was the year of rebirth, the year of great sadness, the year of pain, and the year of joy.
Mm-hmm.
It was a new age. It was the end of history, which is poignant. It was the year everything changed. The year is 2261, the place Babylon 5. So each of those lines is said by a different character. It's fire, dude. Honestly, like that's it. It also it very much evokes like Walt Whitman, like that whole like repeating the same phrase over and over again, and kind of, or even like Tale of Two Cities, like it was good, it was bad, it was life. So I kind of like that poetry of it a lot, but yeah, it's good. And the like visual of it is great too, because now Zach Allen's in the main credits along with Marcus.
Wasn't he in it before?
Zach Allen he was in there last season, yes, but now he's in it. What did I say?
Lita's in there, yeah.
He's ahead of Lita in it, which is funny to me.
Yeah.
He definitely is like in the show more so far, but she's a telepath and he's just a cop.
What do you think? What do you think is the point of Zach Allen after Night Watch?
Great question. I don't know. Because in this episode, he kind of was just the backup Garibaldi.
Yeah.
But that's a great question. I do not know. I mean, he can only be so important. The cast is already like beefy, and unless he gets invited to the Army of Light, which he is not currently.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Or the Conspiracy of Light, he's really not like equipped to hear about all of the major plot stuff going on. So maybe he's like the boots on the ground guy that's like, what is the average person thinking about the conflict?
I guess so, yeah. He's sort of like the not shitty Warren Keffer, you're saying?
Yes.
That's fair.
Because everyone else is like deeply involved, but
yeah.
Let's get to these chunky emails, my friend.
Let's get chunkin'. Punkin' chunkin'.
I really want to read the last one, so if we go back and forth, that would mean that I'll read the first one, if that's okay with you.
Sure, that's fine.
The last one's...
us reading the emails reminded me that last time we had a question about who your favorite random side character is.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of took some time to answer it. I definitely know now who it is, and it is Cartage's assistant guy.
Oh, the guy who's like, everything's going to be okay.
Doing like big clown hand gestures to like act out what he's saying.
Is he the guy who's like, yeah, we all know Cartage is crazy, but don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Some say he's got a table covered in heads.
Yeah, that guy's amazing.
That dude's awesome.
So this first one's from Ryan again, who emailed us last week. Ryan says, "Hey fellas, hello. I emailed you the other week when I had just stumbled across your show and wanted to update that I'm now up to you guys being halfway through season 2 of Babylon 5.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm enjoying your transitioning from Sinclair to Sheridan and how you guys still every so often praise Michael O'Hara's performance as Sinclair. I mention this because most people I know that enjoyed B5 skip over Sinclair and their performance because of how charming Sheridan is and compare them and draw that O'Hara was a weak actor, which I don't think is true. Fuck anyone who says that.
Yeah,
what?
That's a bad take.
That's honestly like not a good take in the slightest.
I think that, O'Hara at times was kind of wooden, but I think also like the show didn't know what it was back then.
Right, he wasn't given great material.
And that's kind of the point of Sinclair, is that he's almost like too good for the time that he's a part of. Like he's just too clear-eyed in like what the right thing is, whereas Sheridan is like he's a war criminal and like kind of a smooth talking shitty guy who can become good. And that's what you need when things start getting all war-y. But I think you need Sinclair at the beginning of the show to show what Babylon 5 was supposed to be. And to give you this North Star of like, in the ideal universe, this place is full of Sinclairs. And I think that Michael O'Hara does that really well.
Right, and that kind of makes sense with his transition into being Valen, or into always being Valen.
Right.
He's like, yeah, this guy was an exemplar for a lot of people, and now he is literally the exemplar for a culture in the show, which works.
Right, yeah.
He goes on to say, hearing you guys start to despise Londo, I would not say that we despise Londo.
What? We love Londo. I mean, we hate him for his various genocides.
A bad man. Yeah, various.
I mean, of course we don't like that.
But you love
Londo.
You gotta love Londo. You gotta love Veer. You gotta love
I'm
Londo.
still rooting for him every
Yeah.
single minute he's on the screen.
I can't anymore. I just can't.
You're
It's one
rooting
of those
for
where
him,
I'm like,
though.
I'm gonna just hands off with Londo. Like, if you figure your shit out, great, happy for you. Go kill the Emperor.
but by the end of that second episode, you're like, yes, he's
yeah,
gonna do
honestly, yeah, him and yes.
it. You're on board for the team. The Londo Veer Jakar squad is a dream come true.
A dream team. Hearing you guys despise Londo is wonderful because that character goes through major changes in the best kind of way. I do agree with that. He says, since I'm still behind on your show, this may have been answered, but I will ask it anyway. Which character or actor did you not enjoy to begin with, but has grown on you? For me, over the seasons of the show and the years of rewatches, it's Marcus. That's from Ryan.
I could see that. I think Zach Allen is my answer to that.
Yeah?
Because at the beginning, he kind of was just like, I'm Zach Allen. But when he goes through the sort of like genuine moral quandaries with the Night Watch, I thought that was pretty compelling.
Yeah. I like Zach Allen a lot. I'm trying to think of like who I definitely didn't like early on. I don't think Garibaldi like made sense to me for a while.
Yeah.
But now I have like such a deep fondness for him, especially now that like when he's gone, I miss him a lot.
I think that's a good one.
Because he just like was a question mark early on. Everyone else kind of like had roles, and I was like, all right, well, what's Garibaldi's like objective besides being the cop? And now that it's like he's kind of the heart of the group, he's grown on me in a big way.
I think I didn't love Jakar in The Gathering.
Okay, yeah.
In the movie.
It's a weird characterization of him because he's just like the sneaky one.
He's just the bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think that kind of gets fixed right away.
They course correct that very quickly. Yeah.
I knew I loved Londo from minute one, and I loved Veer from minute one, and Lanier.
Yeah, most of them were
those guys
kind of
are
on point.
Solid from the jump.
Dylan kind of the reverse, where I've kind of like been disappointed by her, but I don't like dislike Dylan currently.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of like,
yeah, I've kind of gone up and down on Dylan. I think at the beginning I was like, what? Let's see what she's all about.
Yeah,
seems like kind of. I had similar reservations to her that I had with Zahn from Farscape.
Yeah,
where it's like,
what's your deal?
I don't know about this like mysterious wise priest lady archetype that always shows up in sci-fi.
Right.
I've never made that connection, but that they're like basically the same character at first.
Yeah. In terms of like the spiritual one, yeah, for sure. Like the attractive spiritual lady, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it over time they sort of diverge, but
right.
Yeah, but I think Zach Allen is my answer to Ryan's question.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
This next email is a reply to or a continuation of another email. So if you want to read this one from Nick,
sure.
Let's follow up.
So Nick sent an email where he was talking about how he was listening to our coverage of the newsroom, Chat's room, and our coverage of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And he mentioned how he'd like to see an Aaron Sorkin version of The Women. So he says, to clarify, The Women as an example of a play, though I only watched the movie, where male characters are referenced, but it's otherwise only women portrayed. So you know why Sorkin would be the worst for it.
Bless.
And then, for those of us who are following the brother civil war between Nick and Pat, two of our Patreon donors, Nick says, in regards to Pat's $5 donation, I actually already upped it ahead of time. So perfect balance is restored and peace to the Chatzverse. I bumped it to $6. Nice.
Oh, fuckles.
Nice.
This is so good.
Very into that.
I can eat it for lunch. Thank you guys. Please. The thing is, I'm hitting a point where we had another new patron who we'll shout out at the end, but they were like, "Oh, I didn't want to give too much at once because you're gonna go over your like funding goal," and I wanted to be like, "Guys, we're working on more funding goals. Please continue." Yeah. You're allowed to back us over our funding goal. Just because we hit it doesn't mean anything right now. It just means that we're, it means like we're hitting a good goal, which is good, and we're happy about it. But
yeah, and we'll have more announcements about what those new things are going to be.
Yeah,
and all that.
Don't worry about that.
Did you arrange it so that I would get the two shortest emails and you would get the Dan email and the other longer emails?
So what I'll do
Approves.
is, because I love you and I want you to, I know you like the Dan
You're gonna
mail the
bequeath
most.
the Dan mail to me.
I'm gonna give you the Dan mail,
Thank
and
you. And you'll do
oh,
the last two.
exactly. Literally, the reason I want to read the last one is just the context for it is so funny.
Yeah, I saw. I think
Yeah.
you'd have fun doing that. All right. Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Speaking of conflicts that are ongoing.
Mail. All right. So Nick's fighting a war on two fronts here because he's fighting his own brother and he's also about to have words with Dan. Dan says, "Nick, are we dueling banjos on Delen's lineage?" And here we go. It makes me question the nature of the term spoiler. I can only speak from my own experience on this, but here's what I can say. By the end of the War Without End episodes, the online fandom, had put all the pieces together and got a confirmation from the man himself. I guess if someone didn't put those pieces together for themselves, it would be a surprise when it comes up later. I can only speak from my own experience, but I can say that it was a pretty widely known thing, even as far back as immediately after the first showing of War Without End, at least within the online fandom. I'm sure there's a moment in the series when Delenn is referred to as a child of Valen, but by the time that moment rolls around, guys like me would be like, yeah, big deal, we know this, how does this matter? It's more like an odd bit of trivia than anything with narrative bite, whereas someone who didn't do all that might be like, whoa, maybe? In any case, I like that any actual importance it might have gets lost in our diametrically opposed views of it. All right, guys. Well, we said our piece. Let's go back to being friends.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I think there is another follow-up to this next. But basically, I agree. This is a thing that, like, I guess you could read this as a spoiler, but isn't every Minbari a child of Valen? Like, if you mean, like, literal lineage, like, he's her dad, like, cool. I guess that is just, like, trivia. That doesn't, like...
Could you read Nick's response real quick to Dan?
Actually, yeah, I can
I'll
just
read
do
the rest
that.
of the Dan mail.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. So Nick had responded basically saying, I won't challenge further to Chat's podcast royalty Dan on the topic of Delen's heritage, other than to leave it for discussion when it's revealed in season 4 for you guys. So, thank you. Let it be that... This is like a dictation of intent. Dan is the one who was original broadcast. Alan is the one who is current podcast viewing, and Magellan is the one who will be loading up episodes for his students to debate in study period, maybe?
I wish. I've been thinking about if there are ways to take clips to use in my class, but I think it would just be 10 minutes of me being like, okay, so
guys.
Here's what you have to know about this clip before we start. That's Londo. Now, Londo and like
is eternally owned.
Now, in order to understand Babylon 4, you need to go all the way back
to the first Shadow War, and it's like the bell rang an hour ago and nobody's listening to you.
I dismiss you, not the bell.
Ooh.
Nope, don't move.
I love it.
Okay, I'm going to continue this Dan mail.
Yeah, go back.
Season openers in this show tend to drag a bit because of the time in which the show was made. Binge watching didn't exist yet, and a show as dense as Babylon 5 had to have the occasional jumping on point for possible new viewers. The season openers were always considered to be moments to allow new viewers to jump on board, so it was incumbent on those episodes to reintroduce the characters and the conflicts at hand so that the possible new viewership could get sufficiently up to speed to stick around. And for us seasoned viewers, those episodes can feel like they drag a bit as a result. I sometimes imagine just how wildly different this show would be if this show had been created in the age of Netflix, for better and for worse. Which leads nicely to a point I wanted to bring up on the last episode, but I held off because I thought it would better fit here. There's often this notion in the old school fandom that season 4 is the best season, and that it's a direct result of there being no, quote, filler. He says, I liked your deconstruction of what the word filler means in this context, by the way. And that season 5, conversely, suffers by not having that same narrative push. Having watched the show multiple times now, to that I feel like I can now safely say, bollocks. Ooh. I think that the fandom fell a little too much in love with the narrative of season 4 being compressed because they expected cancellation, and then season 5 being an afterthought after the show got saved after all. I happen to think that both seasons suffer a bit from it. I think that season 4 could have benefited with a bit more fluff. And there's certainly moments in season 5 that feel stretched thin. Back in the day, I certainly towed the company line on this, and I thought that season 4 was flawless and that season 5 was a throwaway. But I've had many viewings since then, and I've grown up a fair bit. And now I think I was just drinking a bit too much of the fandom Kool-Aid, and that you guys will be perfectly fine to ignore the noise and just take the episodes as they come. That's been my intuition about it. So that's good to have that confirmed.
Exactly, yeah. Same.
Last bits here. Here's a bit of fun context for you guys to consider. While you guys were being born, right, before or during Season 1 of Babylon 5, I was graduating from high school during Season 3. Yes, Dan. Once again, you guys have greatly amused me with your predictions of the season to come because, as with past predictions, you've been hilariously wrong with certain guesses and supernaturally on the money with other ones. And it's always fun to go on this trip with you guys as you find out which are which. And I'll be interested to hear your reactions to the new directions that the show's opening takes with Season 4. And that's from Dan. Thank you, Dan.
I'm so curious about the pace of the season now that I'm learning that it's like fast.
Right.
Like what is that even? Does it kind of like how does it really like hit a point and then run out of shit? Is it fast the whole time? Like, I
mean, we have to. Like, we got the preview of the future where Centauri Prime is burning and Londo's
yeah, we're getting there.
And there's a kid. We have to get to that point by mid-season.
I think so.
That's my guess.
And then the rest is what? Because like
the rest, what is like fucking Crazy Town?
Because we get the Shadow War, we got
uncharted territory.
We have Saga exactly. Once they burn through all these plots, once they run through the Shadow War, like imagine the Shadow War being ended, and then there's more Babylon 5. Like, what is the show?
Right, because you still got Earth shit and Psychor shit and Mars shit and like Minbari shit and the Narn. Like, what's up with them?
Right, yeah. As we'll talk about in the second episode, it seems like the Narn,
like all that stuff.
I'm so curious. Boy. Well, I want to actually read our last email briefly.
I dare you.
Hey, you dare me. Okay, well, so this is from our friend Jonathan who emailed in. And I'm going to read this as it is displayed because basically he says, I'm going to take a deep breath for this.
Okay.
Hey, Chatz, I'm writing this email while driving using Google Voice, so I hope it makes sense. Just want to clarify that the quote-unquote first shadow of war is the only first war from the Minbari point of view. I'm like 99% sure this is not a spoiler and that they explain this in the Season 3 final episode. The shadows are very old, many millions or billions of years, but something like 1,000,000 years ago, all the other old lady races left except for the shadows and for lawns, and there have been numerous wars in that big expanse of time, but the war 1,000 years ago is the only war recent enough that races that still exist remember it. Okay, that's it. Just sending this while driving because I'll forget to send it later, and I love nothing more than to nitpick, and I really enjoy the show, and I'll probably keep listening, even if you watch a show I don't want to watch, just to hang out with you guys virtually in my headphones.
Aw, thanks.
Jonathan, you sweetheart.
Jonathan,
please
right
just...
there.
Just
please only do that every week. Just
yeah.
Spend 30 seconds on the horn there, and whatever reads.
How do I parse this email actually? Hold on.
He's
right,
saying,
so the shadow.
The gist that I got is that we are referring to the old Shadow War as like the first Shadow War.
It's the first one that the Minbari saw.
Yeah, it's like the young races remember it as the first one, but the Vorlons and the Shadows have been fighting for a bajillion years. So
I see. Okay.
For them, it was like the 23rd Shadow War or something.
Okay, that makes much more sense. Yeah, I kind of just figured something like that. Like this, it's obviously not like the literal first one, but in history books, it's referred to as the first one because it's the first that the Minbari saw.
Right.
Cool. Well, Majan, that is going to do it for our discussion of that first episode. Thank you again for all the emails. We love them. And we will be right back after this brief musical break to discuss whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 4, Episode 2, Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi. It was written by Robot Jones Michael Straczynski, directed by Kevin Robot James Dobson, and it aired November 11th, 1996, taking place from Wednesday the 8th of January 2261 to Tuesday the 14th of January 2261. Alan, what happened in Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi?
Whatever happened in this episode. Magellan, in this episode, G'Kar and Marcus continue searching for Garibaldi, pursued by the agents of the Centauri. Sheridan tries to return to life with the help of the mysterious being Lori Ann. I love
Where do we
Lorianne.
start? Yeah, let's start with Lorianne. So we meet Lorianne in the first episode, right?
Yes.
And all we really know is that Sheridan is somewhere, and there's this creepy looking guy who did you say he looked like that I thought was so on the money?
Ki-Adi-Mundi from Star Wars.
Before you said Ki-Adi-Mundi, which is even more on the money than the first thing you said.
Andy Dick?
Yeah. Yeah,
I specifically
Andy Dick vibes.
because he has it's the voice.
The chin dimple? Oh, the voice.
Yeah, and the chin dimple, I suppose. No, I think specifically because my brain remembered that Andy Dick played Ki-Adi-Mundi in the MTV Music Awards Star Wars parodies.
Oh, okay.
So
this guy wasn't Ki-Adi-Mundi though, was he?
No, wait, the guy who plays Lorianne? First of all, guys, we know it's Lorianne, but I was joking to Magellan that when he says his name at the beginning, it sounds like Lorianne. And if you were watching the show and you weren't on the forums or whatever, and you didn't have a wiki, you would just think his name was Lorianne for the whole show.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
What text defined that it's Lorianne?
Yeah.
Did they write that somewhere? How does anything? And then you overthink it and you're like, when did any of these names get decided? Oh God.
Yeah. Lorianne presents
as male.
I'm going to use a gender neutral pronoun. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Their lines are like a mix of really cool, thought-provoking stuff and just kind of lame pseudo philosophy.
Yes.
All the stuff about you're in the moment between tick and talk.
Bad.
Come on.
Very corny.
Come on.
Hyper corny. I agree.
Come on. But the stuff about you're clinging to life and you need to accept death and why does it matter? Why does my name even matter? That doesn't mean anything. All that stuff I think is cool.
Yeah, there's stuff where he just drops information on Sheridan. The end of the cold open is him being like, "Hey, Sheridan, you're not alive.
Yeah, you're dead. You don't have a pulse.
You don't have a pulse. You don't have blood flowing through you. You're not a conscious person right now." Sheridan's like, "What?" And that basically sets up that this is a spirit journey for John to go through. It's also funny, I didn't even pick up on this, but the wiki notes it. In the first episode, when he sees Lorianne for 2 seconds, he drops his badge. So it's another moment of him giving his rank up and being like, you really need to get rid of that stuff. And I think the lessons he gives John at the end are pretty useful, not only for John, but for people in life, talking about it's easy to find something worth dying for. Do you have anything worth living for? You can't turn away from death simply because you're afraid of what might happen without you. That's not enough. You're not embracing life. You're fleeing death. This idea that we're always trying to not make the most of our life, but try to do the thing and then die and beat death in a way.
Right.
And so that's why he thinks that he's saying that Sheridan did all of this between jumping and everything he's been doing with the Shadow Wars. He's just trying to die, similar to Sinclair trying to die in season 1. And he's
right. Yeah, Garibaldi says a similar thing to Sinclair.
To Sinclair, and he's like, you need to find the thing that's worth living for. Eventually Sheridan figures out that this is Delenn, which is a really sweet ending.
I don't know. I thought that was cheesy.
But you're Mr. Delenn and Sheridan romance.
I know, but I don't know. It always ends up that the one true thing is love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's is it? I mean, maybe it is. It just feels lazy, I think, is my thing. I don't know. I'm split on it.
That's valid. I mean, it's a motivation for Sheridan to accept life, and I think literally his last lines, literally the last lines with him are so evocative of literally biblical text where he's saying if I fall, what do you do? And then Lorian's like, I'll catch you. And when I die, what happens? And he's like, I did it before, I'll do it again. He's like, I already died. Can you bring me back? And he says I can't like light a fire, but I can like help. I can breathe on the embers. I can't create life, but I can breathe on embers. It's like, yeah, it's just really cool. Like I enjoy listening to him talk. I think his voice is like very relaxing to listen to, and it's just like this guy seems like he's cool. And then he also reveals at the end, whatever lore stuff. He's the first one. He's the like primal being that you always get.
That was a cool moment. I'll be honest. When Sheridan's like, "Are you one of the first ones?" And he's like, "No, I'm not one of the first ones." Pause for 30 seconds.
Pause for 3 hours. I'm the first one.
I'm actually the first one.
Right. Oh my God! You want to know something cool? By the way, I think someone probably was going to tell us about this, or they told us about this. But Sebastian the Inquisitor, same actor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Wayne Alexander. That's fun.
Good performance.
Yeah.
Here, I was into it.
So I like Lorien. I think he's one of those like sort of like drawl. You can't use this guy a lot. You can't overuse the Omni being. You have to be very careful, or else it's just like, what do we do? Contact the Omni being. Okay, we figured it out.
Yeah.
But in this moment when it's like Sheridan is at his lowest, him being like, yeah, you're dead. You need to, like, stop the path you're on.
And I think what makes this guy work is that he so clearly says, I'm not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here in case you figure it out yourself. But if you don't, like, you're dead forever. And that's just how it is.
He's not like nudging Sheridan like Kosh is, because he does mention too, like, you still have Kosh within you. Don't forget that he's in there. Also, other lore.
I really like that moment where he's like, you have a Vorlon inside of you, and Sheridan's like, yeah, that's my buddy Kosh.
He hangs out. We get beers.
Yeah, and Lorien says, "Oh, that's what it's called." I think I met that guy actually.
Yeah, I went to college with him.
I think I went to a party with that dude.
Yeah,
that dude sucked.
He's the worst.
God, Kosh is a fucking douche.
Lorien is the only character who can
that dude's
talk.
Clinging to life inside of your husk.
He basically,
dude.
He's doing the same thing. He's not letting himself like be free. He's trying to cling to something.
Yeah.
I like that Lorien's the only person who can talk about the Vorlons and the Shadows in that way. Like, they are like, oh, those guys. Like, nobody else can talk about the Shadows and be like, man, they're only staying here because I'm here. They could leave. They ain't shit. They could just leave. They have no reason to be on Zahadum other than they want to court me and be nice to me. They suck. Don't worry about them. And it's like, literally, like, this guy's awesome in that way.
It's really interesting to see the two species that we've seen as kind of like undefeatable, larger than life, be kind of reduced to, oh, those kids, they're silly.
Those petty kids and their squabbles. Like, ugh, enough of that. But to rewind the clock, I mean, yeah, so Lorien basically like lets John, or helps John get out. John is alive and at the end of the episode gets free. But the episode actually opens with yet another audio log. I wonder if this is just how the show is now. Every week it's just audio logs. Yeah. This time it's Franklin, who's just worried about things. Franklin gets a decent amount to do this episode. I was happy with his stuff. Linear interrupts him with an urgent message and is like, something is wrong with Delenn. Remind me what that was. Oh, she's like sad.
She wasn't eating.
Yeah.
She was fasting because she blamed herself for John being gone.
Oh, right. And then Franklin sits with her and he's like, you're half human now, so you don't have like 21 days of no food or water. You do have to eat things.
Yeah.
How did you feel, speaking of not loving the romance stuff, about her watching Sheridan's like last video message? I just feel like I get it. Like, I get it. He loves her and she loves him.
I like that part.
Okay. It is cute.
That I like more than Sheridan floating through his mind space and going like,
Delenn. He literally,
yes, Delenn, we're gonna bone. That's what's worth living for.
I mean, you're always a guy, Magellan, who I've pegged it. Not correct me if I'm wrong, but as someone who believes that one of the primary reasons for living is to copulate.
No, not to but love, sure.
Yeah.
I just think it's I'm just saying I think it's kind of lazy that is like his reason for life is like, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not trying to be a Scrooge. I just think that there's, I don't know. I just thought it was cheesy, I guess, the way it was executed.
I do agree.
I'm not even
the way
against it being the reason. I just think that the way that it was presented was kind of goofy.
Right. And I don't mean
but
to
I like
push
I like this moment. I think that Mira Furlan sells it pretty well. We get that like tight close up of her face the whole time.
Yeah.
That she's watching the video. I don't really get why Franklin knew that was what she should watch. Exactly. Like, was he going through John's diaries or something? I don't know.
Right. What's the context? They kind of just wanted to get us to that scene, I feel like.
Yeah, but I liked it fine.
Yeah, and I liked hearing Sheridan it's from last May. It's from May of 2260, where he's just like, yeah, so we basically just seceded from Earth government, and like everything's hard, and I'm nervous about it, and I feel like I'm bad at my job. But you know what keeps me going is my love for this woman, Delenn. It's amazing that a human loves a Minbari after I killed so many of her people, and hers killed my friends. But what can I say? Love, transcends all race, culture, boundaries, etc.
I think what's special about that moment is that we see very often characters confess their love to each other in media, and characters saying like, I knew from the moment I saw you I was in love with you, blah blah blah. But we don't often see characters confess that to themselves.
Yeah.
And like, this is a private moment that he didn't expect anyone to see. This is something that is from when we were watching their back and forth, and we were inferring that he was in love with her, but we didn't know if he was thinking about it that way yet. And so there's something to be said for like retroactive characterization, making the relationship feel more full and real.
Right.
So in that way, I think that this moment served a sweet purpose.
Yeah, and it's giving, this is all building to Sheridan, like, understanding not only that he loves Delenn specifically, but that the thing he lives for is the people he cares about, and not for like this grand mission of like defeating the shadows. Because as we've talked about, like, what is Sheridan's purpose in life then after the Shadow War? He needs people to live for. He needs Delenn to live for. And so this is like him in a crisis of conscience to himself saying like, man, I just made a really big decision. I don't even know how I feel about this. I don't know if any of this is right. Well, all that's grounding me, all that's keeping me like feeling like I'm right is people like Delenn, who I love and care about.
Yeah.
So I think it works in that point. There isn't a ton more. There is like Delenn announcing to the White Star Fleet that they're mounting a full-scale attack on Zahadum, which happens in this. She has that whole line. She says, like, a friend once told me, if you're falling off a mountain, you might as well fly. And here I offer you one more chance to fly. And it's like, it's very silly advice. Like, if you're dying, try to just die gracefully, I guess. But that is set up here. That doesn't happen in this episode, does it?
Which one?
Them
line?
attacking Zahadum?
No, not yet. I think they're arranging to do that, but we don't get there yet.
It seems like that's a plan. Like, why not?
Yeah.
But the other important stuff is we're going to talk about G'Kar, Marcus, and then how that all ties into Londo.
Yeah. Okay. So G'Kar is on the hunt trying to find Garibaldi. I didn't realize that he left Babylon 5 at some point.
Yeah, because this is not on Babylon 5. This is on like another planet when he's on the bar.
Yeah, that wasn't super clear to me. Because Londo says to him when he's on Centauri Prime, like, you should have never left Babylon 5. You were safe there. Yeah. And I was like, he left? I thought he was in the Down Below or something.
Me too. I thought he was in like the Zocalo or something weird. Yeah.
So that wasn't clear. But he ends up in a bar where he's interrogating like a smuggler dude. And the dude is, your typical smuggler archetype. And then the bar owner is your typical, like, this is my bar. You can't do, what are you trying to do stuff in my bar? These are my guys. Hey, you find out where he's staying. Like that kind of guy.
Yeah, and then he just became... Thank you, that was really good. Yeah, the guy who is, like, literally 3 seconds later, a bunch of Centauri walk by, and he's like, hey, money. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He sells out Jakar for, like, $3 and a pack of gum, honestly.
Mm-hmm. In the short term, Jakar is saved by... he's getting surrounded by these dudes, and then someone nearby is like, you guys are being mean. I tried to turn into a British accent in the middle, but it turned into a Southern accent.
You guys are being mean. Wait, what? It's Marcus.
And Marcus is here. I didn't recognize him at first because he just looks like a dude. He's just some guy.
Yeah. It's his outfit's a little different, and his like hair, his hair is cut a little different.
Yeah.
It's just grown out, I think, but he does look a little different.
I gotta tell you, the first thought that went through my mind when I saw him was like, I don't need you to be here.
I mean, who's gonna save Jakar then?
Sure. Like the moment is constructed to give him a reason to be there. But what I'm saying is, like, when you see Londo call Veer and say, like, Veer, get over here.
You're like,
need
hell
your
yeah.
help. You're like, fuck yeah, that's Veer. I love that dude. Or when you see, like, Lanier's like, I programmed the computer so that it would jump back to the thing. You're like, yes, you did program that fucking computer. My dude, my guy. Of course you did. Yes. When you see Marcus like, hello, I'm going to do my staff thing. Who cares?
I just think he's in the right place at the right time. And the role that Marcus is filling for me now is like the friend. He's honestly like somewhat the friend that I want to be to people, where you feel okay opening up to him, and you feel okay telling yourself, like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable right now, I don't feel safe, I just need somebody to be around. And he's just around when you need him. Like, he's just right there.
I mean, his entire value as a character is that inexplicably, excuse me, it feels like everybody trusts him a lot.
Yeah.
Like, people immediately want to confide in him.
Exactly.
So he's a character that gets exposition delivered in the scenes that he's in. But intrinsically, like, what is Marcus's interiority? I don't know. I don't think we've ever seen a scene that's just him, right?
I don't think so. Well, a lot of it is how he. That's the thing, though, is it's how he relates to other people. Because I actually really like the scene where him and Jakar are talking about stuff, and they're like, "Yeah." Jakar's like, "I don't really have friends right now," and then Marcus is like, "Yeah, I don't really." He says, "I don't have Narn friends," and then Marcus is like, "Yeah, I don't really have Narn friends either."
He
or
says, it's like, "Why are you looking for Garibaldi?" And
he says, "He's my only friend."
Like, he was my first friend who wasn't a Narn.
That's what it was.
Said. And then Marcus is like. Or Jakar says, I've never had a friend before who wasn't a Narn. And then Marcus says, I've never had a friend before who was a Narn.
Or otherwise, really.
Yeah.
At least ones that are still alive.
Yeah.
And then they just have like a quiet moment in the dark where they're both like they don't have to say, I'll be your friend. I really wanted them to because I'm a sap. But they kind of just acknowledge, like, yeah, well, we're both here. Let's indulge in this for a little bit.
I liked it too. That's what I'm saying is, like, Marcus, his value is that there can be great scenes that he draws out of other characters. Like, he's had cool scenes with when Lanier told him, yo, I'm in love with Delenn and she's never going to love me. And my role is just to, like, support her and die for her for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But then, like, what do you get from Marcus out of that? And here with Jakar, it really drives home how much Jakar cares about Garibaldi. And, like, what do you get about Marcus? He's kind of lonely, I guess.
Same, Marcus. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I think this is the season. Whatever. I don't want to keep saying, like, this is the one where he'll get good. But, I mean, this is, like, their last real chance to get him somewhere. So, give the man an arc. Give him something that's not just related to other people. Like, let him just have a story that isn't about, like, having just, like, yes, I can make friends. Yes, people like me. That's great. People trust me and tell me their worries.
I think him and Zach Allen for me are in similar positions right now, where it's like, why I don't really know how you fit into the larger scheme of things.
Right, especially because we've established and understood that the show is functioning on a grand plan of some sort. So it's like, well, how do you fit into that grand plan then? Because, as a character, I have my own qualms about you, but as a member of this puzzle of people, what is your role?
Right.
So that's the question.
Yeah. So Garibaldi. So Jakar gets captured.
Yeah, he gets shot in the stomach.
Yep.
Which sucks.
And the camera freeze frames on him getting shot for some reason. It's kind of an odd choice. Either that or it was because I was on the train and it froze. It's that's the level of artistic confusion that created.
Right.
And then we go back to Centauri Prime. Londo is called to meet with Emperor Cartagia, who's like, "Oh, I have a present for you, but you're late, and I feel like I should murder you." And then,
me talking to my boss.
yeah, right. It did feel kind of like that, where you have to have those conversations of, "Oh, I was only doing this because you're so great, and you have actually really great ideas that I love." And the Emperor's like, "All right,
Well, you did suck up to me enough.
I like you.
I'm not gonna murder you today.
You can keep your job for the next week or so, until we have another conversation like this." He brings in Jakar on whatever. What is that called? That's where you have a thing around you like that. I don't remember. What it's called.
Chains. In chains.
In chains, yeah, but
Collar.
I don't know. Anyway, he brings in Jakar, and
this is so sad.
It's awesome. It's so awesome.
You just described Babylon 5. This is so sad. Yeah, it's awesome.
Londo, his face is just fuck.
What
God,
just tragic, literary tragic timing. Spends his whole fucking life waiting for this moment, and it comes at just the wrong time, the wrong context.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I don't want this. And then Jakar, it's really a testament to how far he's come and how much he's grown. I thought he was going to spit on the Emperor. When the Emperor was like, "Do you have anything to say?"
His eyes are bleeding red, and instead of anything dangerous or threatening, he's just like,
"Do you happen to know the location of Mr. Garibaldi?"
It's all he cares about anymore.
And the Emperor goes,
"Huh?
Who?
Huh?" And then it's just a beautiful, directorial handoff to the next scene where Garibaldi. This is the only thing we see of Garibaldi in the episode.
That was dumb, man.
He's got 5 o'clock shadow. I literally all I could focus on was his 5 o'clock shadow. A man who sounds like Morden is telling him he needs to reveal information about some stuff.
I couldn't tell. It sounded kind of like Morden, but I don't think it was.
I don't think it was either, but it definitely sounded like Morden.
So I guess he was captured by the shadows, but that didn't really look like a shadow room.
I have no idea
what happened to him since. My guess is that he got captured by, those are human people.
Oh, like Earth?
I think so, but I don't know what they'd be doing that far out.
Oh, dude, it's probably Psycor. It's Psycor.
I think so.
That would make more sense.
If you had to make me guess, I would say it's Psycor.
Mm-hmm. Because who else would have a reason to... Psycor could be like, "Hey, why did you do this with Sheridan? What's your plan with the shadows? What's Sheridan's role?" They have the reasons to ask those questions.
Right.
But anyways, that's the only... that's the only... this whole episode is theoretically about Garibaldi, but it ends up instead being more what happened to the people looking for Mr. Garibaldi, which is good. I think that's a smart choice.
Unhinged Garibaldi is not very compelling to me.
Not really. Not extremely.
Yeah.
And then he just passes out from some gas. I'm actually rewatching the scene because it's short, and I just wanted to see if there's any hint at who it was that we missed. So this man walks up to him with a big gas mask. I mean, he honestly looks Psychor-esque. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the Garibaldi scene. Wait, if there's a logo on him, then I'll be right. I don't see a logo. Okay, well, it's probably Psycor. I'm gonna run with that assumption.
Yeah, let's just go with that guess.
Anyways, we want to talk about the part,
With
right?
Londo and Jakar.
Yeah. So Londo and Jakar were like, well, actually, before this, the Lanier scene where he talks about not sleeping, is that in the first episode? Is this here or where is that?
The Lanier, I don't
Like,
remember.
I'm not sorry, no, I'm not Lanier.
Oh,
where
Veer?
Veer is like, yeah, Londo calls Veer at like 6 a.m.
I think
and
he
is like-
calls him in the first one, and then he talks to him in the second one.
Right, because in the first one he's like, yeah, sorry to call you late, and Veer's like, he just looks haggard.
Sorry
And
to call
he's-
you late, but like I'm not making any new friends here at college, and I just
Mom,
miss
there's-
you.
They're like smoking weed, and I really miss you, and like I just wanted to like hear your voice. I'm like, Mom, they're doing drugs, and I need you to pick me up, Mom. Basically, and Veer's like, I mean, okay. He literally like this is just a funny scene when you consider that like he spent so much time being like, no, I shouldn't work for Londo anymore. No, but he gets a call at like 3 a.m, and Londo's like, baby, come home, and he's like, of course. Like what? the
Like,
fuck?
all right. Yeah, you totally betrayed me and got me like telepathically tortured, but
Like, what?
all right.
But weirdly, dude, I get it. Like, I get where Veer's coming from. It's like, fucking, okay.
Because he has so much faith in the fact that there's something in Londo that is redeemable.
Right, especially
He
because,
like needs to believe that.
yeah, and Londo is telling him, like, hey, I'm planning on working with you. You're the person I need. This is a plot with the two of us. I'm not asking you to kill someone. I'm not asking you to go somewhere for me. Just come back and we can work. He says a conspiracy needs more than one person.
And it doesn't feel like he's manipulating Veer anymore.
Right. This is the first time he's being like very honest with
It feels like
Veer.
he's being pretty level with him, yeah.
Yeah. The reason I keep saying linear is A, I always get them mixed up, and B, I'm looking at the word linear, so I'm like, ooh. But yeah,
but
so he
in
brings
this
Veer
episode,
back.
Veer is there,
True.
and Londo says, I love the way that Londo talks about it, where he says, it's just a sad truth that the more powerful you get, the fewer friends you have. And at like the highest levels of power, you are only surrounded by the people who seek to use you and whom you seek to use. And
Right.
for some fucking reason, you're like still cool. And I think it means you're dumb, but maybe it means that you're awesome. Veer,
My friend.
my good friend.
Let's go do some plots, Veer.
Yeah.
Veer's like, dude, hell yeah. Like, honestly, I'm super down.
I'm into it. I'm here for it for sure.
There's that moment where Londo, once he meets up with Cartagia, just the clapback of being like, don't kill me, Cartagia. You'll kill a piece of you because you're the people. Like you said last episode. I fucking love the relationship between Londo and Cartagia. It's so good.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, all this bunches up together, and we get to the best scene in either of these episodes.
One of the best scenes of the show.
Where this is just the most Game of Thrones shit of all time. Sorry, my brain is melting. Londo meets up with Jakar in his prison cell, and he says, "Hey, Jakar, you're in prison? That sucks. We could work together.
Yeah.
Like, what if we, instead of just making this eternal battle where we throttle each other to death and fight for power, what if you helped me? How would that work? This guy's crazy. He's going to make things worse for you and worse for me and worse for Babylon 5. I need you, like you helped me with Rifa. Just, can I do that favor again? You're a person I can ask for favors from, right? And then the line that you pointed out was,
Well, there's actually a few moments before that I wanted to talk about that are also really cool.
Yeah.
Because Londo starts by being like, all right, man, it really sucks that you're here. They're going to torture you for a long time. They're going to cut a slit down your body. They're going to take all your organs out piece by piece. And when I was listening to this monologue of his, I kept thinking about, like, word for word, this is something that first season Londo could have said, and it would have meant something totally different. And it would have been delivered in a completely different way. Him, like, threatening Jakar. Like, when I get a hold of you, I am going to torture you for months, and I'm going to slit cut down your whole body and take out all your organs. And he would have been like smiling and snarling.
Yeah, it'd be a joy for him to do that. And now he's like, listen, he's going to do that. He's going to do worse than that.
Yeah. G'Kar, already knowing the answer to his question, says, does that please you? And Londo's like, no.
Like, no.
Not at all. And I loved this moment where Londo says, maybe a long time ago. Well, no, not even then. Like, he's realizing that the malice and the hate and the pride that he held was all just made up nonsense that really means nothing to him and meant nothing to him before.
Right, because he's like, now I'm seeing it happen. Like, I'm getting you presented to me on a silver platter, and then they're promising me they're going to torture you, and that's my gift to and I have the power. I can kind of relate, not to having my enemies tortured, but to Londo, like, getting the thing he wants and realizing it's not what he expected. Mm-hmm. It's such a classic type of story, right? Right. It's finally, after all of his hard work and all of this heartbreak, like, Veer is technically on his side. G'Kar is in chains. He's climbing the ladder in Centauri society, and he just doesn't like anything about it. He just doesn't. He's like, no, this is not my beautiful wife. This is not my beautiful house, etc.
Yeah, right. And I think what he's realizing is that what he really wanted was to just stay the rival of G'Kar, and to have their season 1 interactions of like, oh, the Narn are such a primitive species, and G'Kar would be like, oh, you're a bunch of imperialists, but they're not fighting war times. Like, they're just trading barbs and matching wits, and like, I think that's what he enjoyed the most,
Yeah, when it actually comes to like military practice and like ruining each other's societies, it's like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, every step of the Narn Centauri conflict, he had deep reservations about, and deeply regrets, I think.
Exactly. I think Londo's arc in general for the series is defined by just that regret of life, of like the decisions you made and how do you recover from bad decisions. And he's seeing it yet again and asking G'Kar, like, can we start over? Can we do this one last thing together? Because he's acknowledging that like this will probably like be it for both of them if this doesn't work, right?
Right. Yeah. And so the line that I was just floored by, or the exchange I was floored by, was Londo's like, okay, like, we have a deal? Cool. All right, I'll see you later. And then G'Kar says, let me get the lines exactly right. But G'Kar says, you didn't ask the price for my cooperation. And Londo says, you're not exactly in a position to bargain, G'Kar. G'Kar says, neither are you.
Talk about real life. The like exhale of existence, exemplified. Because Londo listens to that and is just like, man, fuck. It's like when you think you're really, really clever and then someone just flips your words on you and you're like, what? But yep, we're equals here. You're in chains and I'm not, but we're both in chains, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so strong.
The ultimate deal that G'Kar asks for is, he says, if I help you get the monster off your throne, you have to get the monster off my world and free my planet. And like, I will do anything to make that happen.
Right.
And you can see a moment of hesitation where Londo's like, that's the reason that he did any of this, was to conquer Narn. The reason that he went down this path to begin with. And he has to admit to himself, like, that was wrong to do that. And it's not worth holding on to. And I think he still, up until that second, was committed to the romantic image of himself as, like, the savior of the Centauri. And the guy who would, like, rebuild the honor of the Centauri society. And in that moment where he agrees with G'Kar, he's like, I'm committing myself to be like a footnote in history, or to look like someone who was really wrong-headed and bad.
Yeah. Yep.
For the sake of doing what's right. And I think that's such a huge moment for Londo.
Honestly, I mean, this is like one of those scenes that feels like it had to echo throughout history somewhat. Not just in Babylon 5's in-universe history, but like TV history. Because like this type of exchange has happened in so many TV shows where it's like you and I, maybe I'm the one, you know, the whole like we're equals, you and I. You're going to help me one more time. We've been fighting for years. If you're going to help me, I'm going to help you, etc. That whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's like it's in everything. It's such a common, like, straightforward conversation, but it's just dealt with so delicately and well in this scene, with brilliant performances from Katsoulis and from Peter Jurasik. Both people bringing 4 seasons of heartache and pain to a single exchange. It's just a sight to see.
Yeah, and then that such a cool directorial moment where Londo's like, "All right, cool," and he won't even look G'Kar in the eye when he makes the deal.
Right.
Then he opens the door to leave, and we get that shot of G'Kar bathed in the natural light of the open doorway, completely at peace.
Right.
Because he's like, finally, I have achieved my purpose. I know what I need to do. I can do it. The most relieved we've seen him, probably in the whole show.
I think something from this scene has to be our episode thumbnail, because it's a really beautiful scene. There's a lot of darkness too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dark season, dark everything, but yeah, G'Kar's like final moment. There's something about the eye makeup that they use for G'Kar too that I love, because it makes him always look like he's just basically a half second from crying. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah. But
that handles most of what happens in this episode. I'm trying to see if there's any other big things we don't get to. But yeah, basically that in that conversation, they're like, yep, we're going to work together. We're going to kill Cartagia, and we're going to get you back in our home world. Mm-hmm. You, me, and Lanier, we're on an assassination journey. But yeah, I believe, that looks like it's everything. So Delenn and the White Star people are going to be attacking Zahadum. We have an assassination plot. Garibaldi is captured by presumably Psycor, and needs to be rescued, and Sheridan is alive as we reach the end of this episode. John, I'm curious what we are watching next week on Chatzylon 5. I should probably take my headphones out for this part.
Yep.
Okay. I do know that the second episode is called Falling Towards Apotheosis, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good title. Huh?
Good title. Okay, I'll be back.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Next week, we are watching the next 2 episodes of Babylon 5. First, Season 4, Episode 3, The Summoning. A mysterious spacecraft heads towards Babylon 5 as Ivanova and Marcus search for more First Ones to aid in the war. Then we're watching Season 4, Episode 4, Falling Towards Apotheosis. Refugees from worlds destroyed by the Vorlons. Okay, thanks Amazon. Descend on Babylon 5. So, good thing we are skeptical of the Vorlons. Come back, Alan.
Hey, I'm back, guys.
Hey. Yeah, don't look at those.
No? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to avoid them, especially because you can just mash the play button on Amazon Instant and not look at them. Fabulous. Magellan, I think it's time for us to take it to the plug zone.
Woot. Let's do it.
If you would like to email us questions, comments, concerns, corrections, whatever, chatspod@gmail.com is the place to do that. You'll get your email read in the middle of the show if you do that. You can also follow us at Chatspod on Twitter. That's CHATZPOD on Twitter, where you can see updates on the show, ask us stuff there, etc. I really want to tell people to just, if you like us, please rate us on iTunes, and please consider checking out patreon.com/chatspod. As we mentioned before, we have all sorts of goodies for our patrons over there. If you back us at $2 a month or more, just $2 a month, you get commentary chats where John and I watch movies with you. And if you like just hanging out with us and being friends, that's a great way to do that. And if you really like us, another fun way to do that is to back us at $5 a month or more, where you get Chats Nights as well. And that's a bi-weekly podcast where John and I kind of just fuck around.
It's fun.
It's super fun. It's one of my favorite things that we do currently. And we actually also accept listener contributions for that show. So if you want us to check something out, be it your favorite episode of a TV show or your favorite game or your favorite album, just let us know. And you have got to be a patron to do that. But then we'll talk about it. We'll give you a whole episode's worth of discussion. We have a fun one coming out soon for one of those that we have to record. But yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/chatspod. And as we near ever and ever closer to that $50 a month goal, I do always want to thank our patrons so far and encourage people to be okay with going over 50 because there's nowhere to go but up from here, baby, or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Our current patrons who need to be thanked are Jonathan, Kat, Landon, Marcus, Nicholas, Patrick, the Brothers at War, Fendon, Six, and new patron, Stefan. Welcome, Stefan, to the family. Stefan, guest on the Passing Through Gethsemane episode, recently started backing us, and we appreciate that a lot. Yeah. John, what's your chatsum for this week?
My chatsum for this week is a documentary that I just watched. I'm looking for the title of it right now. It's called Perfect Bid. And it's basically the story of this guy who was a huge fan of The Price is Right. And for years, he would keep going to tapings over and over and over again. And he, memorized all of the stuff that they have on The Price is Right. The prices that they normally have, the ways that they tweak the prices, stuff like that. And it's kind of the story of the show and the story of him and his engagement with the show. And it culminates in this controversy that occurred where a couple years ago, after Drew Carey had taken over the show, there was this guy who made an unbelievably down to the exact dollar amount perfect bid on something or on a set of items. I don't really know how the show works.
Yeah.
On his Showcase Showdown thing. And this guy that the documentary is about, from the audience, told the dude's wife, and then the dude's wife, mouthed it to the guy.
Oh, shit.
Story. And there's not really any rules against that.
Right.
But, also, you shouldn't do that.
It's kind of against the spirit of the game in a way.
Right. So it's the story of this guy who just decided to become an expert at The Price is Right and kind of caught a lot of shit for it, and he's trying to tell his side of the story. And it's interesting. It's not very long. It's an hour, 12 minutes, so you can kind of just have it on. It's not the most cinematically interesting documentary because it's pretty much entirely Price is Right footage spliced with talking heads.
Right.
But it's one of those things that you might read a New Yorker article about this crazy story, but it's in a viewable form.
And that's called Perfect Bid, the contestant who knew too much.
Yep.
Is that on somewhere streamable?
I watched it on Netflix, yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
Definitely check that out. Yeah, I love little human interest stories like that about just someone really interesting. And all those game shows have these like weird politics that you don't really think about until someone breaks the rules, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. My Chatzylon for this week is a currently running weekly TV show. It's called Desus and Mero. It stars the two titular comedians, Desus and Mero. Desus Nice and the Kid Mero are two comedians from the Bronx who had originally, basically their like trajectory is weird. So they were both originally like pop culture writers. Mero, I believe, wrote for like not Pitchfork, but some music review site, and his reviews were like very funny. And then Desus got like very famous on Twitter, and so they've kind of like their bread and butter has been like online culture and understanding what people like about black culture and that corner of the internet. And so they had the show on Vice a year or two. It started like 2 years ago and ended last year, just called Desus and Mero, where they would just like have people on, and they had these two couches and they would just like, or a table, and they would just have guests on and talk about funny internet videos, politics, relevant stuff to people's lives. And it's just like they had a really cult following, and like they're a niche for people. They also have a podcast called The Bodega Boys, which is where they got very big as well, where they do a similar thing, but it's more long form. And their new Showtime show, it's a lot more professionally produced than the stuff they've been doing previously. And they're trying more stuff with it. So they have like in the first episode, they had a skit they did, or a sketch rather. It was a parody of Green Book, where instead of like going around the country to get what was it? What's the premise of Green Book again? It's like these two guys, and it's like a racism thing. Basically, they like did a whole send up of Green Book, and it's quite charming. And they're doing basically like higher budget stuff, and they're just very funny. And I love the way that they speak. Like they have a specific way of speaking that rubs off on you when you watch enough of their stuff. Like I definitely have friends who like watch the show and that I'll reference their stuff with because they just sound funny and interesting. They have like that sort of rhythm, and they have such a great chemistry that I always am like impressed by between the two of them, because they never like refer to each other when they're talking. They kind of like talk at the viewer, but they're clearly still like friends. And Mero's like a father of 4, and Desus is a single guy, and they're both living in New York. And it's just like, what is the comedy that comes from these two interesting individuals being who they are and being very honest about it?
Cool.
Yeah. That's Desus and Mero. It's on Showtime. Unfortunately, Showtime's one of those premium networks, so you like have to get it. But they have a crap ton of clips on YouTube. So if you just like type in Desus and Mero on YouTube, you can fall down a rabbit hole and then probably check out the new show.
Cool.
That, dear listener, is going to do it for this episode of Chatz, a television podcast. Peace.